Hey lovelies, it's Kate. Welcome back to another video. In this speed build, I'm building the Disney castle on a 64x64 lot in Windenburg. So this build is totally crazy and also out of the ordinary for me, at least, because I usually never build castles. I mean, I've built a mermaid castle a while ago, but this is definitely something else. It's such a huge mega build. So in the latest patch, we got a lot of new free objects. If you own other packs, it's over 1000 objects. I have even read that it's 1200 objects. There is a lot of crazy stuff. So these objects are technically debug objects, and I'm super hyped about this. I've also made a video about this where I'm kind of showing the new stuff, at least some of it, because there's just so much. Even though I have looked through the new objects like, I don't know, 30 times by now, probably there's always something new that I stumble upon, because you kind of always miss something. There's so much going on. So after we got these new objects, I was super hyped and I wanted to build something that is kind of different. And I've also planned to build the Disney castle for the longest time now, but I had no idea how to create the area on the side where you have these rocks or a mountain, and then you have some lawn or some plants on the top basically. And then in the free update we got rocks that are perfect for this. They have some lawn on top of it, some moss or some, I don't know what it is, but it just looks perfect. So I figured that this build would be perfect to kind of use some of the new stuff and to kind of present it. And also the castle has a bridge in the front, and I used one of the new objects because we also got a bridge. And the good thing is, I mean, it's a good and a bad thing at the same time. These objects are technically hollow, so your Sims will walk through them. So when you place some of the new objects, you have to make sure to kind of place something on the inside if you don't want your Sims to walk through it. But because they actually walk through it, you can use the bridge. You can just place the bridge on top of a foundation, on top of any type of floor, and your Sims will just walk through it. And it's just amazing because this way you can just build a proper bridge and you just hide the floor on the inside. As you will see, this is what I've done. I've already placed the bridge on the left side here because it's kind of really time consuming to go through the whole debug menu sometimes because there are no categories. This is the only thing that really bothers me. I have used many of the debug objects before, but now it's just even more confusing kind of, because there are so many objects and there are no categories. So you kind of enter the cheats and then you just have to hunt down whatever you're looking for. I can only recommend to filter by pack, and when you kind of memorize what belongs to what pack, it's much easier, but everything is kind of so fresh and new, it's kind of still confusing, and there's no way of knowing what object belongs to what pack at this point. I mean, a couple, sure, but I mean, I don't have a overview for all the objects yet. That's kind of super confusing. There's just so much going on. So I decided to build the Disney castle because I just think it's super beautiful. I've never been to Disney, actually. I love theme parks with all my heart, especially roller coasters, but I have never been to Disneyland or Disney World, but at some point I definitely will. I hope. But I've been to many other theme parks, and Disney has always fascinated me, just like many others. I loved Disney movies as a kid, and I still do, so I kind of felt like this would be something really fun because it's not a very usual build, I would say. And building this was kind of tricky because first of all, I had to follow a picture. I was looking at different pictures. I think that this is the Disney World castle, if I'm not mistaken, because they are all slightly different. And I was kind of running into a couple of problems. So first of all, the castle is really high, and we are limited with how high we can build in The Sims. You can only build a couple of stories high, so this is a problem. This is also why I built a basement, not only so I would be able to add the bridge, but also so it kind of looks a little bit taller. But there's this very high tower in the back, in the center, and it was really difficult to kind of make it look right. At this point, as you already saw, I kind of tried to just place a room basically that I just raised and put a roof on top, so it was kind of floating more or less, and it was all very confusing. And eventually I decided against this, as you will see. But I'm not gonna lie, this was kind of fun because whenever a build gets very tricky, it kind of challenges me to be more creative and to find a solution. And even though it was tricky, it was really fun, and maybe even more fun than, I don't know, a very simple build. And here at this point, I'm just adding a couple of plants on top of the rocks because at this point I haven't figured out that there are these totally perfect rocks that I mentioned earlier, so I'm going to change that. And as you can see here, the castle looks very compact at this point. It doesn't look high enough, and this is kind of a bad thing because in The Sims we are kind of limited with what we can do, and when you recreate something that exists in real life, you kind of have to do your best, but most of the time it would never look 100% right because we only have the stuff that we have. I'm not using any CCs, so I just kind of try my best. And this was really tricky, especially as I said, because of the tower in the back. So what I did, I'm going to talk about this now, even though you will see later what I did. I simply placed the tower in the back and it's separate from the main building, and I just raised the foundation crazy high, and this way I was able to create a really, really tall tower. And after I did that, I was kind of really happy with the whole look of the castle because it was super annoying that it just didn't look right. And then I was really happy, and I just added more and more stuff as always, and I made the roof blue, even though I'm not happy with the roof 100%. This is the blue color that was kind of most suitable, I guess you could say. And I just looked at pictures and tried to recreate it as best as I can, but as I said, it's not 100% identical by any means. I also kind of changed a couple of things, so I liked it. So it's kind of my spin on the Disney castle, I would say. So as a kid, I love Disney movies. I've mentioned this before. I especially love The Little Mermaid. I'm also really, really excited for the new movie, the live action movie. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. This is kind of my favorite childhood movie ever. I still love it. It's just amazing. So Disney kind of holds a dear place in my heart. And sometimes you watch YouTube, you kind of go down a rabbit hole and you just watch more and more videos about a certain topic. And this happened to me with Disney. I don't know why or how it happened, but it happened. And there's many Disney channels to talk about different stuff regarding the Disney parks, Disneyland and Disney World, and just kind of all kinds of cool stuff. I don't know, I've never been there, as I said, but it's just super interesting. Some people kind of don't want to know what's going on behind the scenes, and some people totally stay away from these bits of information. As I learned, they call this not safe for magic because they kind of don't want to ruin the magic, and they don't want to know how certain things are done. And this is really cool, and some people really like to learn about this, and this is totally me, especially also for any type of movie or TV show. I always look up the trivia. I always love to learn about how something was filmed. I like to look at pictures of the set and all that. I always want to know what's going on in the background. I just love that. And even though I've never been to a Disneyland or Disney World, this kind of struck a chord with me, and this is exactly the kind of stuff that I love. Kind of the background stuff that no one knows about, the kind of behind the scenes information that is super surprising and interesting. And I kind of went down that rabbit hole on YouTube. I watched a lot of videos about that. When I'm building, I like to just have a YouTube video in the background and just listening to it. I love to do that. And that's what I did. And I was in that Disney spiral for the longest time. And then I thought, okay, hey, you just have to build that castle. It's amazing. And what I learned in all these videos, and I think this is super interesting, especially because I'm building that castle, Disney uses forced perspective for their buildings. So the buildings are never as high as they seem. So what they do for the castle, for example, the castle seems to be super, super tall, but in reality it's not. So what they do is the higher the castle gets, the smaller the objects become. So the windows at the top don't have the same size as the windows at the bottom. They are much smaller, so this way the castle just looks super tall, even though it's not. Also, everything kind of gets slimmer and just taller, and this is kind of forced perspective, and this is how they make something appear to be super huge. And I wish I could just use this trick here, so I could have made my castle look a lot taller, but this wasn't possible, so I just used the foundation trick, as I said. So for the color combination, I kept it very classic. I looked up pictures, as I said, so it's pink and this beautiful pastel blue. And this area here, for example, this is kind of just something that I added to the castle. As I said, it's kind of my personal spin on the castle. So I also added a lot of stuff that I felt would look good. So I used this wonderful curved fence. I used this, I don't know what this is, kind of a flower bed or something in the front. I used a lot of the rocks, so there's so many of the new debug objects that I used, and this is kind of what made this castle so special, I guess you could say. Without these new objects, this castle would have never been this unique and kind of good looking, because I'm really happy with how it turned out. And without all these objects, I would have probably, I don't know, used the same old objects and method. I mean, what else could I have done? I would have just used the kind of bridge tutorial that I've made in the past, and this kind of look, probably, I'm pretty sure I would have done that. And maybe the little benches that are part of, I think it's outdoor retreat, I'm not sure. So I probably would have done that, but this was kind of something really new, and there are so many endless possibilities with these new objects. It's just amazing. I've really just scratched the surface with this build, because there's just so much stuff. Of course, you cannot use any object for any build. It always kind of depends, and there are really endless possibilities, especially for community lots, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I have built a couple of community lots in the past, but I really enjoy building family homes and all that a lot more. I'm not really kind of a builder that builds community lots all the time, so I'm pretty sure that there are so many new possibilities. There is kind of something that belongs to a gas station and just so much stuff. It's just amazing, and I'm just so hyped up. I know that I'm hyped up a lot of stuff when it comes to this game, but this is really a builder's dream come true. It's just amazing. So I added a couple of trees that are part of Island Paradise, because they just look so dreamy and perfect, and they have this beautiful pastel pink color. So I just added these and just want more stuff, really. It's just super detailed. There's a lot of stuff going on, and here I'm finally working on the tower that I mentioned. So at first I wanted to use a little trick. So what I wanted to do was building a tower at the bottom, and then I left a little hole in the center, and then I wanted to place another section of the tower on top, so it was technically floating above it. And I raised the bottom section, and I kind of wanted to have this area floating so I could make it look even taller. I don't know, but at this point I was just totally confusing myself, because it didn't even make a lot of sense, because I could have just connected it probably. I don't know, but this tower was the most difficult part about this whole build. So eventually nothing floated, I just added it on top. But at this point, this is kind of the big struggle that I had with the tower. Here I'm even trying to add a rock that is part of Get Together on top of the hole, but for some reason it didn't work, because when I added the rock over it, you could see the hole through the rock. I have no how this is even possible, but this was like a really interesting experience for me. So I fiddled around with this tower for the longest time, and then I finally built it this way. But then I made it a bit slimmer, because I looked at pictures, as I said, and this was kind of not slim enough. The look was kind of different, so I changed that, as you can see here, and I added another tower on the other side, and I then decided to kind of add a floor. So I really wanted to make this tower look as if it's part of the building, because as I said, or as you can see, it's separate. Otherwise it would have been impossible to raise the foundation this high, because the foundation of the build is not raised, and as you know, we cannot do that. We cannot just raise the foundation of a part of the building. You kind of have to keep it separate. So what I did was I just used the same rocks that I have already used on the left side, and I kind of connected the tower with the building using these rocks. And I know that this is kind of a common theme here. Whenever I'm saying that something is rather small or compact on the inside, it looks much bigger on the outside. But I think that I have kind of peaked with this in this build, because this is literally the Disney castle and it's super compact on the inside. Because a lot of these areas, I don't know, are just towers and even separated from the main building. There are a lot of rocks. So this is literally the area at the bottom, as you can see here. This is it. This is not as big as it might appear. So this is really manageable. So if you want to let your Sims move into a Disney castle, and if you enjoy a very manageable, rather compact build, then this is the right castle for you. I know a lot of people don't like when a build is not manageable, when there's so much going on, when it's too big. So this is not big, even though it's the Disney castle. So yeah, it was really surprising for me, because as you guys know, I never work on the floor plan first. I just build the exterior, and for this build it actually made a lot of sense, because I really wanted to create the look of the Disney castle. So it was much easier to just do it this way. And then when I took a look on the inside, and when I actually started to delete walls to create the floor plan, I was super surprised how little space there actually is. I mean, there's enough space. There's even space for a little bar, as you can see here. So it's not like totally cramped in and small, but it's really kind of compact. When you kind of think of it being a castle, it's really surprising. So the interior is super pink, super happy. I mean, this is a Disney castle, but I still wanted to keep it kind of modern, not really modern, but I mean, I didn't want this to look like a super old castle. I wanted this to look kind of fresh. I mean, the size is really manageable, and it's kind of a really good size to play in it. So I figured I really want to have an interior that is also kind of suitable for that. I didn't want to go totally crazy on the interior and make it look like the oldest castle ever. I wanted this to look fresh and fun, so it's actually fun to play on this on the inside. So I really did my best. I used this wonderful city living rug. I mean, it's supposed to be a rug, but it's just flower petals. I really wanted to add a couple of elements that make it a little bit more dreamy on the inside, because the interior has to match the exterior, and at the end of the day, this is a Disney castle, so I wanted to use a lot of pink and these flower rugs or whatever it is. So there are a lot of dreamy elements, and there are 3 bedrooms in total, 1 master bedroom or 1 bedroom for grown-ups, whatever you want to call it. I placed some mirrors behind the lamps on the wall, so just a couple of elements that make it a little bit special and unique. And there is an office at the floor, and this is actually kind of it. You have like 1 open living space, including the kitchen, the bar area, and the dining room and the living room, and then there's a bathroom at the bottom and an office, and this is kind of the whole floor. I'm still super surprised how compact this actually is. So I used these vintage Glamour stuff paintings on the wall in the kitchen, because I feel like these paintings kind of totally tie together the theme that I was going for the interior, because it looks very old-fashioned and vintage and modern at the same time. So it's kind of exactly the look that I was going for. I used some StrangerVille bookshelves, and furnishing this was actually kind of super difficult, but not as difficult as the tower because I wanted to nail this kind of style and this combination, and I have to say that I'm really not the best at furnishing anything that's castle themed, I guess. I don't know, but building something that's more on the old-fashioned side is kind of difficult. This is also why I kind of put a bit of a modern spin on it, but the Get Famous sofas and all that stuff, these objects are just perfect if you want to create any type of castle build, anything that's really old-fashioned. So the floor plan is super crazy, and it wasn't really easy to work with that, I have to say. This is the master bedroom, for example. The shape was kind of okay, because it totally made sense to just place the double bed in the center on the wall and all that, but there wasn't a lot of space for clutter and all that, because I just realized that it would probably block the paths of some of the Sims. So these bedrooms are kind of rather compact, I would say, and it was really tricky to furnish that. But I mean, it's a really crazy out of the ordinary build, and I think for that it kind of turned out pretty well. But at some point I have to build a really proper big castle with a ballroom and all that, and I don't know, this is just a totally crazy Disney castle. So this is it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If so, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.